Hello, dear friends. Most of the world's major stock exchanges and even the cryptocurrency market had a Black Monday marked by red. The Chinese Evergrande crisis is coming together with the federal debt crisis in the US. This is like putting hunger together with the desire to eat, as we say here. This looks like a chain reaction. It looks like a slow motion crumbling of the world economy, despite all the patches being put in place to try to shore up the structure. Crisis means transformation. I have no vocation as an economist, but I must report as a journalist this slow chapter by chapter collapse, which is becoming dense and heavy, but which is the most visible phase of change. This may be the tip of the iceberg of a global transformation. Opinion piece. Chain reaction. Nerves in the economy. Worst day in 2 months. New York stock market plunges. Wall Street ends lower. Another weak jobs report. Oil falls 2% on fear. Inflation is everywhere. Markets cascade downward. Risk of green asset bubble. Evergrande Contagion goes global. The stock market is plunging. Cryptocurrencies fall because of Evergrande. Bitcoin falls 10% and ethereum 13%. Argentina's markets also fall. The euro remains under pressure against the dollar. Gas hike hurts the economy. Norway promises Europe more gas to help. Knowledge talks, but wisdom listens. Washington's attack on oil and gas. World economy crumbles in slow motion. Dow Jones records its worst day in 9 weeks. Evergrande shares plunge 19% in China. Evergrande Contagion worries markets. Crash could ruin China's economy. Causes shock waves in financial markets. Evergrande fears stock market plunge. Evergrande expects the slump to continue this month. There is a 30% chance of a hard landing. Gold ends higher as stocks tumble. White House to run out of money in 11 days. Senator Joe Manchin won't raise the debt ceiling. Rising energy prices could cripple European economy. China poised to revolutionize nuclear power with thorium reactor. Let's start. The world is falling apart. As Sochafal says, in quotes, Biden faces the 11-day countdown to economic doomsday as the world crumbles. Senator Joe Manchin took a swipe at Biden this week, saying that he will not support his plan at this time. It is to say, he will not raise the federal debt ceiling. Democrats have not weeks, but only 11 days to avoid a real economic doomsday about to hit on September 30th, which is when Congress must raise the federal debt ceiling or shut down the government. The latest estimates from Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen and private market analysts suggest that the government would run out of maneuvering to juggle the books by the end of October, and without a single Republican in the 50-50 split Senate willing to help its rivals. In quotes, Democrats plan to attack to the legislation the debt ceiling issue to keep the government funded, a deadline that comes on September 30th. If Republicans block that measure because of the debt issue, the government would shut down the next day. Democrats acknowledge for now that they have no real backup plan if McConnell and Senate Republicans hold the line and lead the nation into a shutdown or debt crisis, other than to try to shame McConnell into keeping his previous position. In an attempt to keep the people distracted from this approaching economy apocalypse, Democrats spent the last fortnight scaring their followers about the supposed right-wing insurrection. It was supposed to happen yesterday. Biden faces a deadline, which he cannot meet on payments at the end of the fiscal year on September 30th. Political showdown over federal debt limit. Top Democrats in Congress said Monday that they aim to continue funding the government and increase its borrowing authority in a single bill in the coming days, setting up a showdown with Republicans who have voted not to pass more debt. Democrats to include debt limit suspension. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said Monday that Democrats will include a suspension of the debt limit until 2022 in legislation to fund the federal government. Cascading falls. Chinese giant Evergrande falls to 11-year lows amid concerns about the start of a real estate bubble in the country. Shares of Chinese real estate giant Evergrande fell to $0.26 on Monday, their lowest levels since May 2010. Evergrande turmoil catches stocks with very little link to China. Shares of social networking companies are falling in short order. The chain reaction may say more about volatility in risk assets than economic contagion. Evergrande fears stock market plunge. Real estate developer Evergrande is on the verge of default. Evergrande's Contagion in China worries global markets. Growing fears of Evergrande's bankruptcy rattled global market on Monday as investors, worried about the potential impact on the economy, dumped Chinese real estate stocks and sought refuge in safe assets. Evergrande's collapse would affect $1 trillion in debt and could ruin the Chinese economy. Evergrande's sales have been declining since June. The company said it expects the decline to continue this month. The firm reiterated that it could default on its debt, which is causing a decline in other asset classes, including cryptocurrency markets. Wall Street ends up sharply lower. Wall Street plunged Monday as fears on contagion from a possible Evergrande collapse triggered broad sell-off and sent investors fleeing stocks for safety. New York stock market plunges amid Evergrande contagion fears and federal debt policy. Stocks plunged Monday with major indexes falling more than 2% during the worst moments of the afternoon session, as investors nervously watched the potential ripple effect of Evergrande's default as well as the debt limit debates in Washington. Dow Jones posted its worst day in 9 weeks. Stocks ended sharply lower Monday, but off the worst levels of the session, as investors analyzed the potential impact of Evergrande and traders' positions ahead of a 2-day meeting of Fed policymakers that begins Tuesday. Standard & Poor's 500 falls more than 2%. Stocks fell Monday, with the Nasdaq dropping more than 3% as concerns grew about the pace of economic growth and a potential fallout from China's Evergrande problems. Stock volatility. Global market volatility increases as Evergrande contagion fears spread. Stocks globally are in turmoil and volatility is increasing dramatically. Stocks are experiencing the biggest wave of volatility in months, but options traders are showing little appetite for further protection, a sign that at least some of them believe the current wave of selling will be short-lived. Gold ends higher as global stocks fall. Gold futures ended higher Monday for the first time in 4 sessions, as global markets suffer significant declines triggered by the possible collapse of Chinese property developer Evergrande again. Argentina's markets fall. Argentine markets fell Monday as investors remained uncertain about the outlook for economic policy after a resounding defeat in the government's primary elections prompted a cabinet reshuffle late last week. Treasuries also fall. Treasury yields fell Monday on fears that Evergrande Group could default, deepening a stock sell-off and encouraging investors to buy safe haven bonds. Shares of Hong Kong-listed Evergrande plunged as much as 19% in more than 11 years, raising concerns about the health of the economy and the potential impact on markets. Bond market tantrum. A bond market tantrum that raises yields may be a scary prospect for central banks, but the Federal Reserve could welcome a massive sell-off that raises treasury yields to levels that better reflect the solid state of the economy. Evergrande jitters wait on yuan. The Chinese yuan weakened against the dollar to its lowest level in nearly a month on Monday, as concerns about the repercussions of Evergrande's solvency problems spooked financial markets and lifted safe haven currencies. The euro remains under pressure against the dollar. The euro is trying to settle below support at 1.172 as the dollar moves higher against a basket of currencies. Another weak jobs report may be ahead. A JP Morgan model that came closer than virtually all other forecasts in predicting the large shortfall in last month's jobs report points to another weak jobs number for September as consumers appear to have cut back on travel and leisure spending since Labor Day. Cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrencies crumble. Cryptocurrencies prices plunged more than 80% in Monday, with a broad wave of selling triggered by concerns about contagion from China Evergrande Group spreading across global markets. Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other cryptocurrencies fall on Evergrande fears. Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other cryptocurrencies fell in price as Evergrande default fears hit a wide range of financial markets. The value of Bitcoin fell 10% to $42,662. Ethereum saw its value plummet 13% to $2,940. Christine Lagarde criticizes cryptocurrencies. The president of the European Central Bank has called cryptocurrencies suspicious. The French politician, a lawyer, says she considers digital assets highly speculative and pushes for widespread deregulation. Interest-bearing crypto accounts. Cryptocurrency owners don't just boast extravagant returns because there is also the yield. Many platforms help you earn high returns just by depositing your crypto assets. Energy crisis. Washington's attack on oil and gas. The Biden administration and the Democrat majority Congress have set their sights on the oil and gas industry as the ultimate culprit behind the changing climate. Now it appears that Washington is doubling down on its pledge to crack down on oil and gas in any way possible, but the move could backfire. Oil falls 2% on risk aversion and dollar strength. Oil prices fell 2% on Monday as investors became more risk averse, waiting on equity markets and boosting the dollar, making oil more expensive for holders of other currencies. Oil prices are now at a six-week high, with Oman even predicting that they could rise to $200 per barrel if global climate policies are passed. BIS warns of green asset bubble risk. The Bank for International Settlements warned of the growing risk of a price bubble in environmentally focused asset markets. Rising gas prices against the global economy. The gas price hike, which threatens to raise winter fuel bills, hurts consumption and exacerbates a short-term spike in inflation, and is another blow to a global economy that is just recovering from the crisis. Norway promises Europe more gas as prices soar. Norway agreed Monday to increase natural gas exports to the rest of Europe as record-high wholesale natural gas prices prompted suppliers in Britain to seek state support and heightened fears of a food supply crisis. Coal prices soar. Coal prices are rising around the world as natural gas shortages drive demand for the dirtier fossil fuel to generate electricity. Rising energy prices could cripple European economy. Rising energy prices in Europe are hitting more than just consumers. Price spikes have begun to affect industrial activities, threatening to deal a blow to the recovery of the European economy with lower consumer purchasing power, lower industrial production, and higher operating costs. Migration crisis. Whips against migrants. The White House said Monday that images that appear to show border patrol agents using whips against Haitian migrants arriving from Mexico are unacceptable and inappropriate. Haitians returned to Mexico. Hundreds of Haitians returned Monday to Mexico from a sprawling migrant camp across the border in Texas, fearing deportation to their homeland as authorities arrange flights back to Haiti. Haitian returnees mourn lost American dream. More than 300 Haitians were returned home Sunday after being expelled from Texas, leaving many demoralized and angry that their search for a better life far from their impoverished country had ended. Throughout the first 8 months of this year, authorities have apprehended 1,323,597 illegal migrants attempting to cross the border into Mexico, numbers rising further this week in Texas, now home to nearly 50,000 illegal immigrants, a real invasion that comes as Biden vows to protect the Tajik border from illegal Afghan migrants. The Zapatista army warns that Chiapas is on the brink of civil war. The Zapatista Army of National Liberation criticized the government of Chiapas headed by Rutilio Escandón, who, in their opinion, is doing everything possible to destabilize the Mexican southeast and the region is on the brink of a cyber war due to his bad decisions, in their opinion. Potential risk. Thousands flee La Palma volcano as lava flows destroy homes. Lava flowing from the Canary Islands' first volcanic eruption in 50 years forced the evacuation of 5,500 people and destroyed at least 100 homes. The appearance of a new eruptive mouth in the Cumbre Vieja volcano in the Canary island of La Palma forced the authorities to order the total evacuation of Tacande. The lava flow caused by the eruption of the volcano on the island of La Palma has an average height of 6 meters, has so far emitted between 6,000 and 9,000 tons of sulfur dioxide per day, and is advancing at 700 meters per hour, razing houses, crops, and infrastructure in its path. Last week's eruption of a volcano on the Canary island of La Palma would have the potential to trigger a 100-meter high tsunami that would devastate the eastern coast of the US and the southern coasts of Europe, and much of the coast of Africa and South America. This comes after the Three Gorges Dam in China came under severe pressure earlier this summer from an every 1,000-year flood. If the dam were to burst, up to 700 million Chinese would be affected. Dozens of endangered penguins killed by bees in South Africa. A swarm of bees has killed 63 endangered African penguins on a beach outside Cape Town. The birds were found dead Friday on Boulders Beach, a popular tourist destination south of Cape Town. China is about to revolutionize nuclear power with a thorium reactor, much cheaper, safer and cleaner than uranium reactors. Thorium reactors do not need water to cool and could be built even in desert regions. In the Gobi Desert, Chinese scientists this month will start up an experimental nuclear reactor that will run on thorium, a weakly radioactive element instead of uranium, reports the scientific journal Nature. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.